ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 30, the activities of the Prachetas. So we are at text 18, where the Supreme Lord is speaking to the Prachetas. And we have seen that the Lord is so pleased with the cooperation of the Prachetas that He says that without any hindrance, with full strength, you will enjoy this material world for 1,000,000 celestial years. Right? We will enjoy all the facilities in this world and in the next. So we come to text 18. अथमय्य अनपायिन्या भक्त्या पक्व गुणाशयाः उपयास्ययं मद्धाम निर्विद्य निरयात् अतः. Translation.
Thereafter, you will develop unadulterated devotional service unto me and be freed from all material contamination. At that time, being completely unattached to material enjoyment in the so called heavenly planets as well as in hellish planets, you will return home back to Godhead. Purport. By the grace of the Lord, the Prachetas were given special facilities. Although they could live millions of years to enjoy material facilities, they still would not be deviated from the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Being thus fully engaged, the Prachetas would be completely freed from all material attachment. Material attachment is very strong. During one lifetime, a materialist engages in acquiring land, money, friends, society, friendship, love, and so on. He also wants to enjoy the heavenly planets after the annihilation of the body. If one is engaged in devotional service, however, he becomes unattached to all kinds of material enjoyment and suffering. In the material world, those who are elevated to the higher planetary systems are supposed to enjoy all material facilities, whereas those degraded to lower planetary systems are supposed to live in a hellish condition. A devotee, however, is transcendental to both heavenly and hellish conditions. According to Bhagavad Gita 14.26, a devotee's position is described in this way. Mam cha yo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samitaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. A devotee is always situated on the Brahman platform. He has nothing to do with the material happiness or distress. When one is strongly fixed in the devotional service and free from all material attachment, uncontaminated by the material modes of nature, he becomes fit to return home back to Godhead. Although by special blessing the Prachetas would enjoy material facilities for millions of years, they would not be attached to them. Thus, at the end of their material enjoyment, they would be promoted to the spiritual world and return to Godhead. The word Pakva Gunashav, Gunashavyah has special significance. For it means that by devotional service, one is able to give up the influence of the three modes of material nature. As long as one is influenced by the modes of material nature, he cannot return to Godhead. It is clearly explained that all planets in the material world, beginning from Brahmaloka down to the hellish planets, are unfit places for a devotee. Padam padam yada vipadam natisham. A place where there is danger at every step is certainly not a comfortable place. The Lord therefore says in Bhagavad Gita 8.16, Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartino arjuna mamupetyatu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Thus, there is no profit even if one is promoted to the highest planet in the material universe, Brahmaloka. However, if one is somehow or other promoted to the abode of the Lord, he never returns to the material world. Hare Krishna.
The Lord says here that, my dear Prachetas, Pakva Gunashaya, you will develop unadulterated bhakti towards me, and then you will be freed from all material contamination. Being completely unattached to the material enjoyment, you will return back home, back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada gives a very detailed purport. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that by the special arrangement of the Lord, Prachetas were given special facilities. So, one thing we have to realize is everybody's journey back home, back to Godhead is different. Later, we'll come to Maharaj Chitraketu, where he was cursed to become a demon, and then in the body of the demon, he was killed by Indra, and that is how he went back home, back to Godhead. But in this case of the Prachetas, they got a very special facility that two things: they would live millions of years to enjoy material facilities, and they would not be deviated from the transcendental path. Because often what happens is, whenever there is a material facility, there is always a tendency to go away from Krishna consciousness. And that's why all the four types of people surrender unto Krishna: Arto Jidnyasur Artharthi, Jnani cha Bharatarshava, Tesham Jnani Nitya. Why Tesham is because others, Arto Jidnyasu Artharthi, they may go away after their needs are fulfilled. But to remain spiritually engaged even after material facilities is not such an easy task, right? And that's why this is the special facility towards for the Prajetas. They would be always free from the material attachment. And Prabhupada says that material attachment is very strong, and the person engages in acquiring land, money, friends, society, friendship, and so on. And it's a very, very strong attachment, very deep abhinivesha people have. Extremely deep abhinivesha. People means we also have, right? So, and then this attachment progresses to in this life, then they want to have a better next life, and so on and so forth. And thus people are aspiring to go for the heavenly planets. But a devotee is transcendental to both heavenly planets or the hellish conditions, right? Swarga apavarga narakeshu apitulya artha darshanam. What is the first line? So, Swarga apavarga narakeshu. So, this is, Lord Shiva is glorifying Maharaj Chitraketu. Why? Because they are engaged in devotional service. Mam chayo avyabhicharena. Now, this word avyabhicharena is very, very powerful. That there is no vyabhichar in devotional service. Does not fall down in any circumstance, and then he sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So, very powerful word Lord uses, avyabhicharena. Thus, the devotee is always situated on the Brahman platform, and he has nothing to do with material happiness or distress. It is easy to, understand, but difficult to practice. One has to be really equipoised in material happiness, material distress, and one has to go through that cycle of, that matra sparshas tu kaunteya. And thus the devotee will face all material attachment uncontaminated by the modes of material nature. To the degree we become affected, to that degree we enter into the grip of the material modes. Right? Mere saathi kyun? Something like that. Or why me? Or so one can very clearly see one is transitioning to one particular mode of material nature. And therefore, one has to free from this. And this was a special blessing given to the Prachetas, that they would enjoy the material facilities without being attached to them. And then Srila Prabhupada focuses on the word Pakva Gunashaya. Pakva Gunashaya means that devotional service, one is able to give up the influence of three modes of material nature. By the powerful process of devotional service, Pakva, right? One is Gunashaya, one is able to become completely free from the material contamination. And this is the the prerogative of Srimad Bhagavatam. We have seen that. Tada rajastamo bhava kamalobha dayastye chetayetairana vidhyam sthitam satve prasidati evam prasanna manaso. So tada rajas tamo bhava. So all the modes, especially Raju and Tamo, will be completely destroyed by performance of devotional service, and especially the study of Srimad Bhagavatam and the holy names. And then Srila Prabhupada says, such a personality will always aspire to live back home, back to Godhead. Not in a place where there is a danger at every step. Padam padam yat vipadam natesha. Right. You don't want to do a job where there is a uncertainty always. By the time you thumb in by 9 o'clock, they will tell, no, aapka thumb is disabled because you are given a pink slip. No, that is not a right job. Person wants a steady, stable job, right? Similarly, padam padam yat vipadam natesham, a devotee aspires to live in the spiritual world. And then Srila Prabhupada quotes that how entire material world is like this. Sometimes people feel, oh no, India is like that. No, sir, America is also like that. You say India, America is like that. No, sir, Abrahma Bhuvana Loka, Punaravartino Arjuna. Entire planetary systems are made like this. Later we are going to see, that ICICI Bank recovery agents are going to go to the house of Indra and they are going to throw him out of the house. I mean, not ICICI Bank. So, Bali Maharaj. So, I mean, just see how humiliating it is that one is thrown, kicked out of one's house, and the same thing even Indra has to undergo. Somebody has done another certification and his job is under threat, and same thing happens with Indra. Time to time he becomes envious of this sage, that sage, and his position is always threatened. And therefore, a devotee, Prabhupada says, thus there is no profit, even if one is promoted to the highest planet, Brahmaloka, because if one is somehow or other promoted to abode of the Lord, then that is the perfection of one's life. Text 19. Graheshva vishitam chapi pumsam kushala madvarta yatyanamam nabandhaya grahamata. Translation.
Translation: those who are engaged in auspicious activities in devotional service certainly understand that the ultimate enjoyer or beneficiary of all activities is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, when one acts, he offers the results to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and passes life always engaged in the topics of the Lord. Even though such a person may be participating in family life, he is not affected by the results of his actions. Purport: generally, a person living in a family becomes overly attached to fruitive activity. In other words, he tries to enjoy the results of his activities. A devotee, however, knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and the supreme proprietor. Bhuktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Consequently, the devotee does not consider himself the proprietor of any occupation. The devotee always thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a proprietor. Therefore, the results of his business are offered to the Supreme Lord. One who thus lives in the material world with his family and children never becomes affected by the contaminations of the material world. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Yajna Arthat Karmano Anyatra Loko Yam Karma Bandhanah Tada Artham Karma Kaunte Muktaha Sangaha Samachara. One who tries to enjoy the results of his activities becomes bound by the results. One who offers the results or profits to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, does not become entangled in the results. This is the secret of success. Generally, people take sannyasa to become free from the reactions of fruitive activity. One who does not receive the results of his actions but offers them instead to the Supreme Personality of Godhead certainly remains in a liberated condition. In Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Sri Rupa Goswami confirms this. Ta yasya harera dasye karmana manasa griha nikhilasva apay avasthasu jivan muktaha cha uchyate. If one engages himself in the service of the Lord through his life, wealth, words, intelligence, and everything he possesses, he will always be liberated in any condition. Such a person is called a Jivan Mukta, one who is liberated during this lifetime. Devoid of Krishna consciousness, those who engage in material activities simply become more entangled in material bondage. They have to suffer and enjoy the actions and reactions of all activity.
Yeah,
This
so
Krishna,
we will divide into two sections, long
yes,
percentage. Now the Lord says that, my dear Prachetas, although my devotees are engaged in the family affairs, they are never entangled. They understand me as the supreme enjoyer, offer their results unto me, and thus they pass their life always engaged in the topics of the Supreme Lord. Right. This is very important. Madvarta yata yatana. So they are always engaged in Madvarta, topics of the Supreme Lord, and thus although participating in the family life, he is not affected by the results of his actions. And the purport Srila Prabhupada explains, generally, when we are in the family life, we become overly attached to fruitive activity. What is the meaning of fruitive activity? Means that we do something and expect some result. And that's very, very natural. And that's how the whole thing is, our KRAs, KPI, everything, our performance matrix is designed around what fruits we are bringing, right? So, and we work hard and we try for a good result. And then because we have already worked hard trying for good result, we want to enjoy the good results. And as soon as we want to enjoy the good results, we are implicated in the karma. A devotee exactly precisely avoids this trap of karma bandhana. What a devotee does? Devotee understands that actually Bhoktaram, the real Bhokta is the Supreme Lord. Bhoktaram, Yagya Tapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He doesn't consider himself as the proprietor, and therefore you will see that devotees always write this ICO. What is ICO? ICO is
In care of.
yeah, in care of, correct. So you know they will not write like it belongs to, but it is in care of. That is the mood of a devotee. So ICO. So they do not consider themselves as proprietor, but they are consider themselves as trustee of those activities, and they are supposed to do the welfare. And this is how they will engage all their activities. Otherwise, family life is quite entangling. One after another. By the time you pay one bill, you'll have, the light bill inflated. By the time you go to light bill ka office, you will have gadi punctured. By the time you repair the gadi puncture, you have the windshield, or there is enough engagement in the family life to be constantly having deep absorption in the family life itself. But a devotee, although engaged in the family activities, avoids that trap of abhinivesha. And this is possible by offering one's results to the Supreme Lord. Now, we know that our activities. Recently, our Jaydev Prabhu gave a very beautiful lecture on fundraising Janmashtami. Without speaking a single word about finance, he spoke so beautifully. But one point is that, we are working for a job and the result of our activities is a salary. And a part of the salary should surely come to as a Janmashtami donation, right? Especially for Grihastha, Dana is considered to be very, very important. And such a personality, one who is unattached to the activities, is considered as Jivan Muktaha Sa Uchyate. Otherwise, without Krishna consciousness, if we engage in the activities, what happens is it is like Duryodhan Dushasan fighting the Kurukshetra war. With every release of the arrows, we are bound in the stringent laws of the material nature, as Srila Prabhupada explains. Right. So more and more, we are simply bound by the laws of material nature. But Krishna consciousness movement is the great savior. Yeah, please continue.
This Krishna consciousness movement is therefore the greatest boon to humanity because it keeps one always engaged in Krishna's service. The devotees think of Krishna, act for Krishna, eat for Krishna, sleep for Krishna, and work for Krishna. Thus, everything is engaged in the service of Krishna. A total life in Krishna consciousness saves one from material contamination. As stated by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, Krishna bhajane yaha हय अनुकूल विषय बलिया त्यागे taha हय भूल. If one is so expert that he can engage everything or dovetail everything in the service of the Lord, to give up the material world would be a great blunder. One should learn how to dovetail everything in the service of the Lord, for everything is connected to Krishna. That is the real purpose of life and secret of success. As reiterated later in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita 3.19. Tasmad asaktah satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hi acharan karma param apnoti purushaha. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty. For by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. The third chapter of Bhagavad Gita specifically considers material activities for the purpose of sense gratification and material activities for the purpose of satisfying the Supreme Lord. The conclusion is that there are not one and the same. Material activities for sense gratification are the cause of material bondage, whereas the very same activities for the satisfaction of Krishna are the cause of liberation. How the same activity can be the cause of bondage and liberation can be explained as follows. One may get indigestion due to eating too many milk preparations, condensed milk, sweet rice, and so on. But even though there is indigestion or diarrhea, another milk preparation, yogurt, mixed with black pepper and salt, will immediately cure these maladies. In other words, one milk preparation can cause indigestion and diarrhea, and another milk preparation can cure them. If one is placed in material opulence due to the special mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he should not consider that opulence a cause for bondage. When a mature devotee is blessed with material opulence, he does not become affected adversely, for he knows how to employ material opulence in the service of the Lord. There are many such examples in the history of the world. There were kings like Prithu Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Janaka, Dhruva, Vaivasvata Manu, and Maharaj Ikshvaku. All of these were great kings and were especially favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If a devotee is not mature, the Supreme Lord will take away all his opulence. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead states, Yasyaham anugrahanami harishe tad dhanam shanai. My first mercy shown to my devotee is to take away all his material opulence. Material opulence, detrimental to devotional service, is taken away by the Supreme Lord, whereas a person who is mature in devotional service is given all material facilities.
Now, further, Srila Prabhupada explains this Krishna consciousness movement, therefore, is the greatest benediction to humanity. Why? Because we are always taught of how to practice Bhagavad Gita in our daily life. Bhagavad Gita says, Yat karoshi, yadashnasi, yad juhosi, dadasi yat, tat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. And Bhagavad Gita, and here ISKCON, Prabhupada says, the devotee thinks of Krishna, eats for Krishna, acts for Krishna, sleeps for Krishna, and works for Krishna. Right. Thus, everything is engaged in the service of Krishna. A total life in Krishna consciousness saves one from material contamination. And therefore, when we have something anukul for the Krishna bhajan, then that should not be considered as Maya. This is very important. That one who is expert, he will dovetail everything in the service of the Supreme Lord. And this is, the Jivan Mukta And that is the real purpose of the life, and that is the purpose of success. So success is not about stopping the activity. That Bhagavad Gita says, Nahi kaschit kshanamapi. We cannot stop. We have to work according to psychophysical nature. But the point here is, tasmat asakta satatam karyam karma samachara. Karyam karma. We have to perform the activities. Asakto hi acharan karma paramapnoti purusha. Without being attached to the fruits of the activities, one has to act as a matter of duty. Just like Bhagavad Gita, another verse says, just like the ignorant person with deep absorption, he will do the activity. A devotee also will do, the same activity with same deep absorption and attention to the detail. Only thing, their goal is different and their intentions are different. Their consciousness is different. By working without attachment, one surely attains the supreme. And this is the summary of the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That how the material activities performed for sense gratification, they will yield one result, and the same material activities, when performed with right consciousness, they will give another result. Sometimes people may wonder how the same activity can cause the different results. And Prabhupada says, just like when you take too much of a milk and you have dysentery, the stomach upset, and that the cure for that is another preparation of the milk, that is dahi. So the ingredient is same only in one form and in another form. Similarly, Duryodhana is fighting war, Arjuna is fighting war. War is same, battles are same, mantras being chanted are same. One is attaining one result, deep bondage. Another is attaining another result, that is paramapnoti purusha. And therefore, when one is placed in opulence, material opulence, one should utilize that opulence as the great mercy of the Supreme Lord. Opulence can either help us advance in Krishna consciousness, or opulence can become hindrance on the path of devotional service. And if it becomes hindrance on the path of devotional service, then the Supreme Lord, out of great compassion for such a personality, will take away that opulence. Yasyaham anugrunnami harishye tadhanam shanai. Right. But the Lord wants his devotees to be happy. Lord wants his devotees to be great and utilize that great position in the service of the humanity by guiding them properly in devotional service. And there are many such examples. There is an example of Prithu Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Yudhishthir Maharaj, Vaivasvat Manu, Dhruva, Ikshvaku, so on and so forth. All these were great kings, Rajarshis, and they perfectly understood the principles of Bhagavad Gita. They lived in great opulence without getting infatuated or without getting materially distracted. So material opulence is detrimental only for a neophyte devotee who doesn't know how to handle material opulence. But for an advanced devotee or for a mature devotee, material opulence is a benediction. And Siddhanta Saraswati used to say this, that material opulence is like every opulence is like a zero. As soon as you add one to that, every zero becomes valuable. 1 0 becomes 10, 100, 1000, it becomes very, very valuable. But if the Krishna consciousness is not there, all the zeros put together, it's all zero in zero, right? So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you,
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Dandot Pranam.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dharma Pranam.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.